Hey everybody, welcome to episode 115 of The Green Life. The Green Life has been here since 2022 and I just wanted to do the last roundup for 2024 to thank everyone for being part of this journey. It has gone very fast actually, and one of the things I love about podcasting is that we can share so much and learn so much. So this is the aim. And this last episode is a solo episode. I've done a couple actually throughout, and I think I will do more because I want to teach more about the things that I talk about when it comes to women's health, and I have the platform to do it, so that is always helpful. But in any case, I wanted to give a big shout out to Namawell for the J2 Juicer, still really powering me through every single day, so thank you. And then I wanted to also give a big shout out to my affiliate accounts, which are with Dr. Morse's Herbs, and you guys know I love them. The Workshop, which is they're friends actually, and they create amazing herbal remedies and drinks, and they really focus on the powers of turmeric and saffron and cinnamon and many other things. On top of it, they do wonderful elixirs, and they also have CBD, so you have to check them out. And then Newzest, of course, for giving me that boost of protein that I need as a plant-based woman in my 40s, wanting to really stay young and healthy for as long as I can. And I really want to envisage getting into my older years, having the energy and doing sports and really being as active and never really feeling sorry for myself. So let's hope that it stays that way. Today I wanted to talk about the journey of healing, and I've spoken about this kind of in not actually kind of, but really in details in another episode about how healing is not linear. And of course the healing I was talking about was also emotional and spiritual, and that holds true in all ways, right? But as this is like at the end of the year of 2024, and I've been on this path for 3 years, I found out I had type 2 diabetes in February 2021. I knew I wasn't feeling well. I just never imagined that I had type 2 diabetes. Like my A1C was way higher than it should have been. It was at the beginning of it, of course, but still, right? I definitely have poor glucose metabolism. My body just doesn't break things down when it comes to glucose when I eat a high-fat diet. And when I found that out, it kind of was shocking but also relieving because I wasn't feeling well, on top of having adrenal fatigue and my hormones were all over the place. Now people are like, but how do you know it's adrenal fatigue? That's not really tested. Well, the way that you can actually know if your adrenals are a little bit overwhelmed is that you can do Dutch tests, which tell you what your hormones are doing. And normally what happens in a Dutch test is that you can see your cortisol levels. Cortisol levels are supposed to be the highest in the morning within your waking up time and 2 hours after waking up. But then they decrease through the day. But then you also see a decline in the evening, but it's still there. However, when you don't see movements, and especially when then you have your stress being really high all the time, and you can see that the levels are just not as high in the morning as it should be, it's really an indication that your adrenals are not working properly. They are tired because for a long time we've been pumping out way too much cortisol to get us going, right? So that is really important to know. And of course, when we have high cortisol, our progesterone then shies away. It's really tough to bring it up. Now, thankfully, I had a good regular cycle, but I had to start noticing that it started getting shorter, and my PMS it was just, my symptoms were horrible. So the week before my period, it was just insane. But aside from that, there was also the mind fog, the brain fog, the always anxiety, not being able to handle anything. Like even a good morning would just set me off. I knew I was just not in a good place. But having moved to Portugal, living on a farm, disconnected really from a lot of people. The people here, are farmers and simple. They're simple and they live the simple life. They drink their wine and they party and, there is no intellectual stimulation. I found it really, really hard to integrate. And it's not judging. I'm not judging the people that are here because they're different to me, and that's okay. That's their life. And if they are happy, that's brilliant. But what I found is that for me, it was a struggle because I need that stimulation. I need that input. I need to be, I don't want to always be the source of knowledge sharing. I also want to learn. And so for a long time, as I didn't really, my YouTube channel was all about the food because again, I went back into these patterns of finding comfort into food because I felt lonely. I felt very disconnected. My family was here. My sister and my brother lived with me, and it was very hard for me to share the space with them. Not so hard when my brother was here alone, but when my sister did move, it became very, very overwhelming. And then my husband and I were just not really connecting, and that really put a dent in our relationship, which now is, we are in really good terms. We're really good friends. We love each other a lot, but I don't know if we can be together as a couple. We haven't been really for a little while, and it has been a sad journey, but also one that, I have to really just be true to what I need and want. And sometimes if the other person is not willing to meet you halfway, you can't always be the one compromising. Otherwise, you just shine, like you shut down your light. And it's really tough to have that conversation because the other person sees their own point too. And of course, you don't want to impose things on them. So it's a very, very tough time, a tough journey and tough navigation. But I think a lot of us go through it and we're just so shy to talk about it. And again, it doesn't come from any place of judgment. It's like more, okay, what do I need to learn from this, right? What would happen? And I think I just learned not to control anything and just figuring out how I feel mostly, and also figuring out my attachment styles, which I had no idea about. But then I started diving into the work of Dr. Nicola Pera, and I found out that I have this wonderful blend of anxious attachment and avoidant attachment, which together are a mess. Like imagine, normally you have people that come together in a couple. One is generally avoidant and the other one is anxious, and those relationships are firework. Now imagine one person with both of them. It's like I am my worst boyfriend or girlfriend. So I had to learn all that. Like, and even though I'm conscious about it, I have to pay attention to the things that I think and the things that I say and how I feel when someone talks to me in a certain way. I also thankfully started Kabbalah, and I actually started really learning the things that I always knew were true and knew at some level and knew also about. But now I have the permission to actually identify what that means, and there is a support system around it. I'm very familiar with the Tree of Life since a long time. I even have it in my office. I have the Anabacoa prayer in my office, and those things are so helpful for me. But doing the Kabbalah course has been a very interesting way to really introspect more and more. Like when I ask everything that happens, I ask myself, what is the lesson? Or when something triggers me, I just stop and think, okay, pause. What a pleasure. Why is this happening? And instead of being reactive, I try to be more rational and calm and allow things to teach me. It's hard when people trigger you. It is. It's harder when people that are in your life trigger you. But I've learned to not feel that triggered. My mother sends me very passive aggressive videos sometimes. I don't know if she realizes she does that and they are passive aggressive, but they are in the circumstances that we're in, not having a relationship that is very close, and the way she thinks I'm wrong about how I decide to take my life and how I decide to take our relationship with my sister, with her. So I think, I don't know if it's conscious, but it's funny how these things come and then you're like, oh boy, okay. And you don't react, you just think, okay, it's fine. what's the lesson, and then try to just work with that lesson. And it makes you really notice how many things that we have learned since we were children. It comes from our parents, especially when it comes to reactions, that we have to change so that we can grow. And it's really not that easy. It sometimes is very challenging even to think that we can deal with it alone, and we need support. And I've actually seen a therapist, which has been amazing, especially when it came to communicating with Kyle. So we did together as well, and it has helped us so much. And I think in many ways, it was a relief for me to actually hear from my therapist that I'm really in a good place, that I am thoughtful, that I have really thought about things, that I'm not just reacting, and that I'm much more advanced. And even Kyle is in the journey of introspection, because I really pay attention to these things. And it was nice to get a validation, not because I have to sit in front of him and say, you see, I'm more advanced than you. That's never happened, and I'm not going to do it. But it was for me to have a boost of confidence, because at some point, of course, when everybody's against your choices, you start thinking you're totally wrong. And so having someone that is not related to you, that doesn't know the full story, and just listens to the things that you're feeling and says, listen, you're actually not a shithead, you are pretty thoughtful, it's really helpful. So I really, really recommend, if you're going through something, to go and see someone to help you out. Even if you do a couple of sessions only, it makes a massive difference. I only did maybe 6 sessions. I didn't need more than that. And they were pretty compact together between September and November. So quite honestly, they were perfect. Like, it was, she even said to me, like, don't come back. You don't need me. But I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I really like to talk to you. So, there is that. But it's definitely a journey that has taught me a lot and still teaching me. And there are times that I'm like, I wish I just could go back and change it all and make different choices. And I never regretted, actually. The relationship with Kyle has been such an amazing journey. What I mean is maybe even the choices that I made about where we would move in Portugal. If I had known better the landscape of this place, like where we should be, I would definitely have chosen maybe a place that is closer to a city, but still in nature, because that's really what I ultimately want to do. Instead of being so isolated in a place where I just cannot find community. I've never been someone that manages with small places and small mentalities. I don't know why. Maybe my soul is just over it. It's like, you have so much more to give. And unfortunately, what I teach is so out there that the people locally just don't get it. And it takes a lot of wanting to educate yourself and change to even take on things like your diet. And they put you in a box, like, oh, you're vegan. I am vegan, and I really, by science, looking at science, I can tell anyone that plants are healthy, like the fiber is necessary for our microbiome. Like, this is not an agenda that is vegan. This is just reality. It's science. There are controlled studies that show that. It's not like I'm trying to make woo-woo stuff out of being vegan, but people are so attached to the way that they eat. And even if you tell them, hey, listen, you can still, if you want, consume animal products. As a vegan, I don't like it, but as a naturopathic doctor, I am going to support your choices, with the caveat that you understand what that is. And here they just can't. They just put you in a box. You're the vegan, and that's it. So even actually some expat friends that we I thought they were much more open-minded, but like I started being really judged as being vegan. Oh, you're vegan. I'm like, okay, I am not having this conversation with people. Like, first of all, if you look super healthy, and I will look up to you and say, okay, I want to do what you're doing. But since this is not the case, I'm just going to go like, let's not judge other people's choices. You do your stuff if you think that that's the way, but don't put me in a box, because I really don't belong in one. And unfortunately, this is how you feel when you're in a small place. So the soul thing, I would have done things differently, and I would have not had my family very close, because unfortunately there is a lot of healing that has to happen there. And I think it takes time, and only now maybe I can actually say that there's definitely no bad feelings, but I also am so wary of the relationships that I don't want and do want, whether they are family or not. That is that you have to kind of really think about it. And then, of course, there are people in my life that I really would love to have closer, and they're not, like my brother, but it is what it is for now. So there, those things have been really teaching lessons. Like it's been this amazing journey, like of inner work, realizing different things, making different changes, small and big, and really letting go of the judgment and being aware that everything is not static and it moves and is dynamic. That actually has been such a relief, because one of the things that I really suffered with was that feeling of being stuck. Like for me, there's another contingency plan, another, I guess, contingency point, or difficult point to talk about with Kyle, is my flexibility in wanting to move, whether it's country, house, everything. Like I'm just very dynamic as a person, and he's not. And it frightens him to make choices. So he will rely on these massive messages from above to come to him to make him, to really just prompt him to do anything. And, I am like, to me, we carry the light wherever we are. We make choices so we can carry the light. And then when you do it, you move and you try. It's try and error. Like we are here because our soul remembers something, but you're not going to remember anything or do anything with it if you're just stuck. And that's really what has been the toughest part, being told that I'm wrong because I want to be more flexible and move and be dynamic. And in my soul, it just doesn't feel that that's the case. I just feel like, yeah, sometimes it's scary to do new things, but you then learn so much more. And then you have experience and you make better choices later. So those things have been really, really key. So yeah, I really value that. And I think with the podcast, what's helped me is that I created a community online where we can come together and talk about things. And talking to experts is helpful. And I think for the first year, I especially went out there and really interviewed people that have big names, especially in the vegan community. And I loved it. And now I'm really looking for more like unknown people that have amazing experiences, whether they're sharing their experience online or they are sharing it in real life, or they they don't share it at all, but they have these stories, and I am lucky enough to have met some people so that they can share. It truly doesn't matter, but I just wanted to make more real. And of course, I want to focus now on women, which I've been doing for the past year, but this year especially has been really like a journey to create something specific and special for us women, to take us through the different cycles of life. So something that I'm working on is changing labeling health to cycles wellness, because I really want to take care of the women throughout our different cycles of life, as well as our monthly cycles. And even when you get into menopause, there is a cycle. So understanding what that cycle is, doing it differently from other doctors. There are doctors that I really look up to, like Dr. Mindy Peltz. I think when I was learning about hormones, I saw a lot of stuff that she then confirmed and I was really on board with, but we do disagree on some of the things when it comes especially to the consumption of animal fats or products. And I always get a question about my view on seed oils. And I don't want to be extreme to go out there and say seed oils are poison, and I tell you why. Because on its own, seed oil, from soya, from peanuts, whatever, okay, from any vegetable oils that is not olive oil, which is the most studied one, they are just gonna be fat out of a plant, right? A seed or a nut or whatever. And you are removing all the rest of the stuff. So as a principle, I'm not a fan of oil because of that. But when it comes to seed oils being used in a lot of processed food, I think that's what the problem is. It's not so much that the seed oil on its own is bad, because science actually doesn't show any inflammation increasing, or any, yeah, it doesn't actually show that it's bad when you do the tests. But what I think we missed the mark on is that all these oils, because they're cheaper, they're used in processed foods. So they're combined with other things that are not healthy. They are the shelf life is like forever long. They're not healthy foods. They're not whole foods. If a person eats whole foods and may use canola oil, for example, for cooking, I'm quite sure they're not going to have problems. All right. And the people that are really just focusing on the seed oil being the bad guy are missing out the whole point. It's like saying that one thing causes all the problems. And we know that that's not true. We know this not to be true in things like cancer. We talk about cancer, like people are like, oh, you see, that woman ate so healthy and she got cancer, because it's not just about the food. It really isn't. Like, we are so, again, dynamic and bio-individual that when we eat something, what works for me might be total poisoning for someone else. But equally, when it comes to like these trends going around, like the carnivore diet, and I talked about this in my podcast before, we are not carnivores. We are literally not built to be carnivores. Can we ingest animal products like flesh and digest it? Yes. There are consequences. Like, there would be consequences if I lived on Twinkies every day. That stuff is not food, but I can eat it and I won't die on the spot from eating it. But long term, yeah, it will cause issues. Like you saw Super Size Me. He was on that food for like a month only, and literally his liver was a mess, and that's a month. He didn't die on the spot, and he totally, you know, he survived, but he was feeling awful, and he was his liver was a mess. Like, he needed to go on a serious cleanse to then be able to detox from that crap that he was eating, which is just McDonald's. Okay. So we have to really think about these things. And it's not like somebody can say McDonald's is bad for you because of the seed oils. Oh my God, if that were like the only thing in it. Sorry, I'm not, it's not about bashing a brand, but that was the movie. So those things are key. Like, we have to think about it. And I think when we pay attention to those things, it makes us just reflect for a moment. We are not guaranteed a long life. We're not even guaranteed a healthy life. But we have ownership of the choices we make every day, so that we can extend vitality, extend our lifespan, so we have longevity and strength and fitness. If you are going to live a life just doing what the majority of people do, which is eating a lot all the time, and then not move and be negative and watching the news every moment and gossiping and being worried and stressed and unhappy, staying in marriages that don't make them happy but they don't want to change anything, staying in jobs that don't make them happy but they don't have the courage to leave. I mean, when you have all these things continuously happening, yeah, it doesn't matter if you eat kale every day. Like, you can get sick. You know what I mean? Like, the best food for you will make you sick if you're not healthy in all aspects of your life, which is why health is holistic. And that's why when I started getting healthier, because I just couldn't even look at myself anymore. Not only did I look horrible, but I felt worse than I looked. I was just like, oh my God, I need to change everything. Now, I didn't change everything all at once. The first thing I focused on was my body, because I was feeling so awful. I wasn't sleeping well. I was tired all the time. I was irritable. I had to look at that first. But then other things came in, and I'm like, well, I'm unhappy. Like, I don't want to be unhappy, because this will make me sick. No matter how great I eat, like, I'm mostly raw, and this won't make me healthy. Those things are important. And I'm not saying that we're perfect at everything that we're taking on. Trust me, it's not perfect, but making the effort is truly honorable and makes you think and gives you new habits, gives you the tools to create new habits, and eventually you will. For example, I work out every single morning, whether it's 15, 20, or 45 minutes. I will work out every single morning, and there is no compromising that. Now, if throughout the day I have another workout, whether I'm teaching a class or doing weights, whatever, that's great, it's bonus. But every morning, my routine is wake up within an hour, workout, and use that cortisol, and then have my food, and then eat early, as early as I can, like early, like 3 o'clock, to have my last meal, and then fast until the next day and repeat. Those are like things that I do every day. And then there are things that I need to improve on, like, my bedtime routine lately, like not lately, but like last year, going to bed later. I used to go to bed at 9 o'clock. I also realized I was going to bed early because I was just a little depressed as well to be here on a mountain, segregated away from everything. And I was just like, I just want to go to bed. Now I'm busier. I have things to do. I socialize more. So, I don't feel like I need to retreat, but equally I need to be careful. I don't want to just not get my sleep, and I want to make sure that I don't compromise my rest. So there are things that I can improve on. But generally speaking, yeah, it's been creating new habits, like that workout, like eating raw food, like really paying attention to the cues that my body's giving me, which I didn't do before. So whatever small change you can make, whatever tool you can harness so that you can make new, habits that are healthier for you, that's what you should go for. That's a brilliant thing to do. So I really, really recommend it. So guys, I wanted to just close the year with these reflections because it is so important for us to pay attention to where we want to go. I saw actually a really great quote from, I don't know if it's a quote, but it's definitely a statistic from Marie Forleo. She said, people sometimes get to the end of the year and they make this list of achievements they want to create for the next year. But then that list is dormant because you don't look at it. And so there is a much higher chance of achieving your goals, 45% more, if you make that list every day. So the first thing you do every morning is what do I want to achieve today? What do I want to achieve this week? And every day just tackle the ones that you're going to do today from the week list, for example, and then see how it trickles down into the year list, right? So you are much more likely to achieve your goals by doing these lists every day. And I never thought about it, but I am going to do it this year because I feel like it makes a massive difference. And I actually have a journal called Boss Lady, which I haven't even used yet, and I had it for years. And I'm going to start using because it has prompts for that exact exercise. 45% more chances of achieving your goals if you do it every day. It's a pretty high chance, and I'm going to take it. So thank you very much. That was a very good tip. So every day, do something. Every day, focus. Every day, envision what you want to achieve, and it will happen. And I think you will feel amazing for it. So guys, a big kiss from me. Happy New Year. And I mean the calendar New Year. We should have a podcast about this. I celebrate the actual New Year by looking at the 13 moons. So it's not 12 months, but 13 in March, which makes a lot of sense because spring is a new year, is a new life. But let's just say calendar-wise, Gregorian calendar-wise, it is the new year. So happy 2025, you guys. If you want to learn more about the secrets of real time counting or time tracking, I should say, then there are lots of resources, and I can send you one that is really awesome. But pay attention to it because the ancient people knew exactly what they were doing. Just look up Mayan calendar and you'll just see it there to begin with. So guys, have a great time on the 31st. Have fun, and I'll see you in 2025. Bye.